Hey folks, it's just touch after 7. My name's Eric, and I want to get the meeting started. And welcome. What I want to do is just have everybody go around and introduce themselves. And maybe if I could start with Matt. You want to jump in and introduce yourself, and we can work around the room?
Wow. Hi, I'm Matt Humphrey. I work for the Sheriff's Office, in case you didn't guess. I've worked there for about 10 years, and I actually do live in Aloha. So, just so you know, I have a little bit of love for Aloha. I would sit down, but my belt's up with this chair.
I'm Dana Weintraub, representing Arbor Station.
Steve Lawrence. I lived about a block from here for the last 63 years.
Anthony Jones, I live about 2 miles from here since '73.
I'm Lyle Garcia. I live near where Farmington Road and Southwest 198 come together, Southern Aloha.
I'm Janine Galani, and I live in Aloha, and I'm new to the area and the pastor of the United Methodist Church.
And I'm Shirley Bowles, and I just live in the area.
Hi, I'm Victor Armadeus, and I also live in Southern Aloha.
Becky Jarvis, live in Aloha near Rio's Ribs neighborhood, and own a computer shop and a retail clothing consignment sales event.
Trisha Mayberry, and my garage door faces Beaverton, and my front door faces Aloha, so I get to complain at everybody.
Joel Mosier, I work for Edwards Center. We own and operate several group homes in the Aloha area.
I'm Bob Fetter. I live in Aloha for 55 years. I live in the north side.
Harris Hacker, I'm just a citizen of Beaverton, Aloha area.
Mike Dawes from Washington County. I'm your Aloha Reedville project manager working on your behalf.
I'm Barbara Squires. I'm a newcomer. I've only lived on Cooper Mountain for a little over 40 years.
I'm Dan Schauer. I'm the Oregon State University Extension Service CPO staff person. We're coordinating for CPO 6.
I'm Mabel Eng. I've been here since '71, and I live just 2 blocks from Aloha High School at the crow flies.
Rex Neer, live across the street since '78, and I'm your vice chair.
I'm Andrea Castillo. I'm a reporter for the Oregonian. I actually live in Aloha. Lived here for 3 months now, and I cover Aloha as well. So if anyone has story ideas, feel free to come talk to me.
Are you taking Casey's position?
Yeah, I'm one of Casey's replacements. She had big shoes to fill.
I'm Sandy Watson, and I live in Aloha, and I've been here since 1971. And I guess that's it.
Janelle Josephson, Aloha resident.
My name is Tara Sullivan. I'm the outreach director with 1,000 Friends of Oregon. Happy to be here today.
Thank you all. I'm going to pass around a clipboard. This is our sign-in sheet, and what's really nice is Tara said, hey, can I come back after, I think I called Tara a couple years ago and said, hey, can you come out? And when I get on the phone and ask for speakers, the ability to provide that you guys show up is something I can prove with a sign-in sheet. So if you haven't, even if you want to be anonymous and put a big old X there, please at least do that, because what that does is it shows that people show up. So I'm going to send that around. I'd also like to let you know that unlike most other public meetings, we have beer, root beer, and we also have sushi and Skittles, and it's like a walking advertisement and a quarter for diabetes. So just help yourself. With that being said, I did make a couple slight changes to the agenda. We're going to pivot very quickly over to Matt and get our Sheriff's Department report. We may or may not get a 12 Valley Fire and Rescue report. That's really common, but after that, we're going to have Tara Solzen give us the update on climate smart communities, and after that, we're going to have an existing conditions report from Janelle and Sandy on Buttermilk Creek, and they provided a PowerPoint presentation for us. Then to close the meeting down, we're going to do land use applications, and then also procedurally, October, our next meeting is our annual meeting. So I want to make sure that anybody who wanted to be an officer of CPO 6, such as chair, vice chair, secretary, maybe head up a board, knew about about that opportunity. So we'll close the meeting down with that if anybody wants to participate a little bit further, just because that's in our bylaws. That being said, I'm wondering if Matt, you might be able to brief us on the happening. Can we just kick it and have a root here with Matt? Can we yeah. You're on camera, so yeah, we're all turn our ears around, and that being said, Matt, take it away.
So, again, my name is Matt Humphrey. I work for the Sheriff's Office. I grew up in Aloha. I live in Aloha. I went to Aloha High School and all that wonderful stuff. So, essentially, I'm bringing a couple things I always bring. One is basically selected property crime calls that we have in your area. The CPO 6 area that they show here is actually 2 districts, the 6 and the 5 for the Sheriff's Office. So, it's a little, obviously, it's not going to match up perfectly. You guys can get copies of it back there. Just because somebody called in a call, though, it doesn't mean that an actual crime took place. And it doesn't mean that the crime that they reported took place. We actually had a guy up in North Aloha just this last week who reported people on his roof trying to break into his house 3 times in 3 days, and actually nothing ever occurred. He's mentally ill. But that's going to show up on here. So statistics, we all have to be careful with that. And then, of course, we have the Neighborhood Watch News, which is back there as well. We're going to start up the Sheriff's Office Citizens Academy, which, if you guys don't know, it's for anybody of any age, essentially, to kind of get to know how the Sheriff's Office works. It's how I got my start when I got out of high school. They take you every Tuesday night for 3 hours, and they teach you something about the Sheriff's Office. You can be tased if you want. Yay! I don't know if they purpose spray anymore, though. And you'll get a tour of the jail, you can see a demonstration of firearms, you can do a bunch of that stuff. And basically you go on a ride along, and they have an alumni program, and it's actually really cool. So that's going to be starting up pretty soon. And it lasts about, I think it's 55 hours, and you do about 3 hours a week, 3.5 hours a week if I remember correctly. So there's also some good information inside here. I don't know if you guys know, but what we call the 6 area, which is where we're at right now, which is South Aloha, anything south of TV Highway, basically between 209th and let's say roughly Murray. That's the 6 area, or South Aloha, for the Sheriff's Office, the 6 and the 6-1. It's the busiest district in the entire county. And as you guys know, the Sheriff's Office covers unincorporated areas of the county. We don't work in the city. We can, but they have their own agencies. So we work Aloha, Timber, contract cities like Banks, things of that nature, Bethany, but we're not going to necessarily be doing stuff in Beaverton, Hillsborough, Tiger, things of that nature. So, does anybody have any specific questions or concerns? It's always my favorite part because I'm always super unprepared. But if anybody wants to ask questions, you, sir.
I have a 2-part question.
My
Those
favorite.
burglaries that have been happening in Portland, that it seems like they've been getting a lot of stuff from the houses. Are they targeting those? And then the second part of the question is, those 2 that happened back in Bethany area, where one was an India family, where they had over $100,000 worth of gold and jewelry. I mean, is it like people, do you think, you know, the words got out that they have these things? I mean, that's pretty rare, it seems, for these people to come to these houses like this.
I can't give too much information about that, but those people are being specifically targeted. A lot of times it's because of their nationality, and it's because a lot of times people from other countries don't necessarily keep their wealth in banks like we would. They keep it under the mattress, or they keep it in a safe or something of that nature. And a lot of times people who don't necessarily are new to this country and don't speak English well, they're targeted a lot more because they're less likely to contact the police because in their country the police are corrupt.
There was 2 in Portland this last week, and both of them, they got a lot of stuff in the houses, and they broke in the middle of the night. And 2 people got shot in 2 instances.
I don't have a lot of information about that, obviously, because it happened in Portland, but the ones that did happen in our county, yeah, they were pretty straightforward people who were being targeted. Because there was a lot of wealth in their house.
Yeah.
As opposed to my house where there's nothing. Ma'am?
I don't have any real specific information, but in my neighborhood in Aloha, 4th of July is still continuing this last
By
week.
Rios, right?
Yes. And I think it maybe the apartment complexes or Nisa off of 170th.
Okay.
I'm not sure, because, you know, obviously when you're laying in bed at 10 o'clock at night, I'm not rushing out to go see what the fireworks are.
Sure.
But I'm just FYI that 4th of July is still happening in our neighborhood.
And that always happens as long as I've been here. People like to continue the 4th of July. I love the 4th of July, but not in September. So Obviously, if people have illegal fireworks, which in Oregon is stuff that basically goes in the air, M80s, stuff like that, it's actually a crime. It's a B misdemeanor. So we do have some teeth to enforce certain things. My recommendation to you would be to call non-emergency dispatch if you hear it, because otherwise, a lot of times we'll be driving around, we'll hear fireworks, but we might be concentrating on something else. Whereas if you call in, we must respond to your call. So just give a call to the non-emergency dispatch.
Even if I don't know where it's happening?
Just say, hey, I hear fireworks generally to the north of me, and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
A lot of us over by Arborcrest and that other side, that back side where that guy that used to have that tower lives. I know some families back there that
Okay.
are
There's been quite
people.
a disparity of people who are loving 4th of July for some reason. I don't.
Hey Becky, would you feel comfortable sharing any additional information on the BB gun incidences that
Yeah,
are happening in your neighborhood?
Quick question, because I went through a supervisor with Washington County Sheriff. We have a neighbor on Southwest 175th that's known for causing a lot of problems over the years.
Okay.
They shoot BB guns in their backyard. I live on 174th and they live on 175th at the cul-de-sac. Closest cross street is Wakeham.
Okay.
There's a green space between the backyards of 174th and 175th. And over the years, they've shot BB guns. One of the neighbors has a BB gun hole in her living room window. And I guess apparently there are no ordinances in Washington County against BB gun use in unincorporated Washington County, which, you know, maybe years ago when there were a lot of farms and stuff, that wouldn't have been an issue, but where we have higher density, that's a huge issue. We have kids, you know, families with kids that don't feel comfortable even playing in their backyard.
Well, there are no specific ordinances against BB guns or pellet guns, you're right. And one of the things that I found as being a deputy is not everything's against the law. However, damaging people's property is against the law. Recklessly endangering people is against the law.
Right, but they're finding these, you know, they're finding BB gun pellets after the fact, you know.
Right, and that's difficult, but if you gave me a call and said, hey, these are the people that are shooting the BB guns, we know from previous history, here's a bullet, here's a pellet hole or something like that, that's somebody I could go and contact. I've actually never heard anything about that.
Okay.
But I'd love to hear about it when I'm on duty. That way I could actually go do something about it. Because I've had problems like that in the past, but mostly it's been in the south area over here. And we've been able to take care of it.
And I know that in the Oregonian, in the last 2 weeks, there was an incident where I guess a couple was arguing about a BB gun and the BB gun fired and it did go out the wall and damage the next door neighbor's house. So BB guns are.
Oh yeah, they're dangerous.
Yeah.
Very, very much potential danger there.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I got a zinger for you. This one's a tough one, but I want to talk about the subject. And as opposed to confronting you directly on it, we as taxpayers, we're going to write a big one. And Lucas Glenn, $2.5, $2.6 million jury verdict. Not going to get into the minutia with you, but I'm curious from a training perspective. For your boots on the ground, are you being asked to do anything differently in light of the fallout from the Lucas Glenn shooting?
No.
Really? So procedurally, there's been no changes that you could attribute to that?
There's been no changes. That happened very recently. That was just last week. And obviously, our training division always evaluates everything. A lot of the simulated conflicts that we do in training where we have paint guns and fake batons and we actually go into scenarios with people are based on a lot of our previous shootings that we've been in over the years or critical incidents that we've been involved in. And the Lucas Glenn case is one of those. So for us to kind of jump up and say we're suddenly going to make a big change, a knee-jerk reaction is usually a poor choice. So far they haven't changed anything. There are, again, not to get into the minutia of it, but some of the reasoning behind that verdict might have been the way that people testified and what they testified about specifically. It was very kind of a bottleneck way to go. So whether or not that's going to be appealed by the sheriff's office, I don't know yet.
Okay. Well, that's a very diplomatic answer. I want to thank you for that. You survived. And if you would, one of the things that has crossed my email a lot has been the Citizens Academy, which I think is just an outstanding way for folks to get involved in the Sheriff's Department. You don't have to be 250 pounds built like a linebacker in order to, you know, you can be 70, demure, and still come out better educated.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious, could you just tell us a little bit more about the Sheriff's or Citizens Academy? Because I think you mentioned that earlier
I
on.
did, and basically at the front of this, there's a description right here. But essentially, you're going to look at about 55 hours in the classroom. You're going to go for, I think it's about 2 months, 1 day a week, which I believe it's Tuesday, from about 6 at night to 9:30 in the evening. And essentially, every week it's a different subject, or it's a couple different subjects. And that's how I got my start. I went there right after I graduated high school, kind of looked and saw what it was all about. If you miss a class or something because of kid stuff or family stuff or birthdays, they're not going to throw you out of it. But it is very interesting. You can go through a lot of stuff and see what we actually do. You can go on a ride along as part of it for an 8 or 10 hour shift on whatever shift you prefer with a specific deputy if you like. You can be tased. You can see how that affects people and how as soon as they turn off the taser, the pain goes away instantly.
Are you
There's no
suggesting
after
something?
effects.
Like you need something?
Let me know. But essentially, it is a good way to get to know the ins and outs of the sheriff's office so that you kind of know what they're all about. A lot of people don't know that the sheriff's office runs the jail. There's only one jail in the county, and we run it. The sheriff's office runs the jail in every county in Oregon. The city agencies do not have jails. They have holding cells. So little facts like that that most people just don't know. How many beds we have, that we're usually, the jail is always at capacity. How many deputies we have. Who the sheriff is. He's going to come in and chit-chat with you guys. So there's a lot of good information, and it's free. So, yeah, it's very nice, and it's a great way to get your foot in the door.
And it's on Tuesdays.
It's on Tuesdays, yes.
Tuesdays typically are one of the busiest days for people that are active in the community. I was looking at my calendar and April.
Your Tuesdays are all eaten up?
Yeah. You might suggest to your superiors that they think about other days.
Okay.
You know,
fair enough.
Just because I think that the Tuesdays are really busy for a lot of people that are active in many different things that would be interested in.
Absolutely. Okay. Sir?
Is that something good for a person who heads up a neighborhood watch program, or not necessarily?
I think it is a good idea because it'll give you a good idea of our capabilities for a lot of different things. For reader boards for speeding, for response times, for different crimes that we investigate, what actually constitutes different crimes. I think, yeah, it'd be an excellent tool for you. Anybody else have any questions, comments, outrageous remarks?
I'm going to request some applause for the great presentation. Matt, if you'd be so kind, would you leave me a card and maybe a couple cards in the back? I definitely want to make sure you get connected with Becky because I think she's a neighborhood advocate. Thank you so much. So if you need to get old Matt, come see me. And in the meantime, what I'd like to do is welcome Walker Mallison and guests to come on up. Walker's somebody you should all get to know because he's in charge of that little fire station a couple hundred feet that way. And I'm glad to see you walking. We were talking about your foot last time. And Walker, would you introduce, is it Sergeant?
This is Chris Tompkins.
What's your title?
I'm just an apparatus operator. I drive the fire truck, so.
An AE?
AO.
AO.
Chris
Okay.
is one of our new AOs.
Welcome.
And as a training station, we get many people in new positions that come through.
Very cool. The floor is yours.
Great.
Brief
Thanks,
us.
Eric, good to see you again. I haven't seen you in
Far too long.
So, I see many familiar faces. For those who I haven't met, my first name's Walker, and I'm the station captain right over here at Station 6-2. I've been in and out of that station for many, many, many years, the last 4 plus or minus as the station captain, which helps to manage the other shifts. Most of the program implementation and the training and still runs on all the calls and does all the typical fire department housework as well. So generally what I like to do is come up and just obviously answer questions and field those questions, talk about a little bit about what we're doing and maybe some interesting programs we've been working on. And really it's more of a way just to get to know you and remind you that we are there. The best role I can play as the station captain is to be the advocate for the community and the citizens. And there are things I can do in that role, and then there are things I can't do in that role. And Eric and I have ongoing dialogue, and he knows behind the scenes the things we've done together and the little things we can accomplish when we're not running calls and training and all the other daily activities. So first off, I think I'd like to acknowledge the deputy has already left, but I just want to remind everyone that we work very closely with the deputies. They have an outpost at our fire station, for lack of a better term, and I know that they've had not a challenging few months, but they've had some really sentinel events, some very significant calls. They're very, very busy. This is one of their more high-density call areas, and I just want to acknowledge the really good work I see them do. I've worked around law enforcement all around this country for 23 plus years as an adult, and they're a tremendously patient and really good bunch of folks. So I know they've had a tough few months with some of the pretty serious calls they've had. So thanks to them. And let's see, some of the new programs we're working on right now is we've implemented as part of what we're calling a community risk reduction program at the station level, is we are integrating in some of the community mental health workers to do ride-alongs, and we're trying to find out what we can do to be part of helping what we're calling a mental health crisis risk reduction plan, and working with the Washington County Mental Health Crisis Response Team, who also works more directly with the Sheriff's Department. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to go. The only thing I do know is that mental health is such a daily part of the calls that we go on as emergency responders, especially as resources are thin. So we are trying to find ways to make sure that the best resources get to those people in crisis at the best time possible, and to do some training with the folks at the station level. One of the best ways we're doing that now is bringing those caseworkers in and to sort of have them ride along and work together and get to know each other and build relationships. Eric's helped me with a couple minor victories, I would say, in the last month. We've had, which is generally an ongoing challenge for us, we've had some folks with nuisance complaints, and it's the typical overgrown weeds or nuisance properties that I often put up quite a bit of effort into with mixed results. And I think we had a really minor but good success with some. Well, I'm not going to name any specific structures, but we were. But I brought in some people from other parts of the fire department, and what we call sort of interoperability, or working with other departments within our district, and we were able to mitigate a problem very quick involving the county as well. And so it was really nice to see that quick turnaround. Also, Eric's been able to point me in the right direction for some folks that we're donating our cans to. I think it's that Girl Scout troop is coming now, so we're getting them regular supply of cans just to help them earn a little extra money. And pretty much things like that. That's what we really enjoy doing, being an advocate for you all at the community level.
I got to jump in and say something. Walker's been a dream to work with, and he has really taken the outreach, and there's a repetitive thing that he said, and it's been relationships, and that he has reached out. He found me. He said, I hear you're the guy over there, and what can we do to work together?
Years ago.
And we have, every week or two, we're trading emails back and forth as, hey, I got a pile of books for that library that's going to open. When do you want them? Where do these cans go?
Food bank, we did some food bank stuff together, which was nice.
And so what I've been able to do is help connect the dots, and he's helped connect the dots, and it's just one of these partnership things. It's really a good success story, the CPO program.
It's really nice.
I really
very,
encourage
very nice.
you to build an alliance with Walker, because he solves problems, and he has the clout and the credibility to get some stuff done. So when something is of concern to him, it's fully on my radar. He's a man of action. He gets stuff done. So thank you for that, because you repeatedly solve problems for me. Thank you.
Well, it's important, once again, I'll just emphasize, it's important to know what you can do and what you can't do. And so the things that I know there's something I can do about, I assure you, I'll get, just like Eric said, I'll get right on them and make sure everything is going your direction. And unfortunately, there are things that I can't do and stuff. But yes, ma'am. Familiar face. I apologize. I forgot your name.
Becky, it's okay.
Hi, Becky.
Thank
Did
you
we
for-
exchange emails?
Probably
At
to
some
Eric.
point? Okay.
Yeah, over the Rios,
Oh, yeah,
the
right,
6-foot weeds
right.
that happen every summer.
Yes.
Thank you for resolving that. And then I
Yes.
had a follow-up
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
Does the fire department do any outreach to Beaverton School District? Because I'm just thinking of the Woodburn fire with the
Sure.
3 middle school boys with the hand sanitizer. I was just curious.
Do you all understand the question? Just, there's some fire, Woodburn, was it the middle school, the
Was
high
it
school?
high
The high
school?
school?
High school.
Okay, and so we actually do very regular school visits for a variety of topics, whether it's just to go out and do a meet and greet, depending on age levels, various tours, various fire safety topics of discussion, and the older you get, for sure, we have our fire prevention folks that are very engaged in the schools as much as possible. So this time of year, my calendar fills up very quick.
Yeah, I was just curious. I never
Every
knew
school
hand
visit
sanitizer
possible.
could start a
Sure,
fire.
sure. So we definitely are out there involved. Yes, ma'am.
Does your crew handle the 170th and Augusta Lane area?
170th and Augusta. We do, that's an interesting little break in, it's right between 2 stations, so it sort of depends. Do you live in that area?
Yeah. I live on the corner of Augusta Lane and Jetta Lane.
Right, oh, and yeah. So you kind of are on the line depending exactly where you are, and I view that as a good thing. If I were a resident right between 2 stations, I would feel good about that because it means that it sort of doubles your chances that anyone, when one's out, one's always available to cover. Is there a particular issue?
I've had contact with 2 sets of crews.
Right.
One for a very traumatic experience with my husband's death, and they were wonderful.
Right.
And then another, I made a casual request of one of your officers for help in having somebody come show me how to check my smoke detector.
Right, right.
And that afternoon, they showed up
Sure.
at my house.
Absolutely.
And with 4 men, I decided to make use of their time, and by the time they left, we had my gas thing where it needs to be to turn off the gas, and
Right.
turn off the water, and master switch for the electricity, and both my alarms checked, and I was good to go, so.
Yeah, I would love to take credit for it, but I'm just gonna surmise that it was the crew from Station 6-7, which is just on the other side of that coverage line, that probably came out. And so all our crews are happy to do that, and you know, having working smoke detectors in all the homes is a big, more than a big deal for us. We have an expectation to have at least 1 working smoke detector per floor of your occupancy. And nowadays, current code far exceeds that. Has them in every room and so forth, but 1 per every floor is still well within our expectation.
We don't need you in the kitchen.
No, and in my own personal house, I would have 1 per floor and be more than comfortable with that. So I'd love to take credit for it, but I'm guessing it was the other crew.
I think it was your crew, because I actually asked Sandra about it.
Oh, to Cassandra?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
And so, you know, that was about 1 o'clock, and at 3 o'clock, they were at the door,
Sure,
so.
sure. And we get those calls regularly, and we field calls directly, and it's no trouble. That is what we do. So we make sure we get somebody out there too.
A nice compliment to you.
Yeah, oh, great, great.
Very, very customer service.
Yeah, we work very hard with the community, and the interesting thing is, so, and just kind of get off topic, but we're in one of the top few busiest engine companies in the fire district, so it's a very, very busy fire station. We have most of our new folks come through, so we're very busy with training. It's a large station. It requires a lot of work to maintain. We have a great deal of equipment there. We're very, very busy. However, the majority of the crews over there, maybe not the majority, but a good portion of the regular crews have been there at that station, like myself, off and on through most of their careers. So we hold some very regular folks in an area that has a very high call volume, that demands a lot out of people. So I think it's a great community to work in. The people are very appreciative, and I don't know, we all enjoy working here. It's very busy. And who was commenting about the fireworks down at 174th? Yeah, we're around throughout most of the night, every night. It's a very busy station after midnight, and so I know the area well, and so I...
Yeah, and it's hard because I don't really know exactly, you know, when you're lying in bed.
Well, sound travels so far
yeah,
in this area. because it's generally flat and especially at night. So,
Train.
so it's hard to, it could be anywhere, but I hear you, there's a lot of activity after midnight in this area.
There was a fire on Pheasant Lane
Yeah,
not too long
right,
ago.
a couple weeks ago or so.
Was that house near the road?
No, that was on, not our shift, but it is still this station's first due area. And it was up off Pheasant, not too far from 185th, I believe. An abandoned home, and it was set back with quite a bit of arborvitae and shrubbery in front of it.
And you were able to contain it in all that wood
They were able to
there?
contain it.
They
I
did
believe the
phenomenal.
biggest challenges they had is that the fire had caused several of the power lines to come down and block the streets. The
Yeah,
crews
that
had to
whole
work
area
around.
could have just gone up in a,
Yeah, big houses, big trees, a
Drive.
lot of growth.
yeah.
It's a neat street though, isn't it? If you know it, it's an established street. So,
Great job.
yeah, yes, sir.
Now, you guys moved.
I know your face too, right?
Oh, yeah, well, I walk by every Sunday morning.
Yeah, sure.
So, but the small car's gone from this station now?
Okay, what was your name?
Rex.
Rex?
Yeah.
So Rex is asking about the small car that was at our station, and that was one of our single-person car alternate response vehicles that we had during the week, sort of during normal business hours, in conjunction with the other staffed apparatus that's the 24 hours, 7 days a week apparatus. And that was there in transition to another station, and in its place we brought in, based on the numbers and the data we ran, we brought in a medic unit. So it looks like an ambulance, essentially.
Right.
And it's staffed with 2 people in a licensed ambulance with 2 firefighters cross-trained in it as well. So to kind of increase the response capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is the district, well, everything these days, there's some county folks here too, right? So data is obviously a big deal these days, and so that this is a very data-driven fire district that we work for, and they ran the data of call types and locations and found that we would be even better off, instead of the 1-person staffed vehicle, to have the 2-person staffed with 2 paramedics, cross-trained firefighters, and sort of a rescue squad medic type vehicle.
Yeah, because I live across the street here in Blanton.
Sure.
And when that car went in, it was
Right.
like the number of trips that big trucks were
Right.
doing, I mean, dropped like significantly.
Right.
And it was almost amazing. And then when one would go by, it'd almost be like, oh, it's surprising, because I've been
Sure.
living over since '78.
Right.
Actually, before that one was put in.
Right. It helps to have that sort of squad medic vehicle there, just because it's more people and more capabilities. So we always support that, and at the station I'll always take more is better. But our call volume's actually increased quite a bit. So even with the car or the medic, our call volume's consistently gone up and stuff. So hopefully they're just avoiding, maybe they're going the other way instead of down Blanton or.
Oh, I doubt anybody must use.
I try to have guys
railroad
turn the
crossing.
J-brake off too, so it's not too loud, so maybe we snuck by you.
Well, I usually hear that go in on the way back.
Yeah, yeah.
My other question is you're the captain and he gets to drive the truck with the lights inside?
I know, it's great.
He has to tell me where to go.
That's not really a
I know.
improvement, is it?
Well, and Chris, I'm sorry, Chris, I should introduce you more, but Chris is also, we have people who are training to be lieutenants or on the lieutenant's list, so Chris is on our lieutenant's list, so there'll be times where I'll drive for him and he'll work in the officer seat and stuff, so it's nice to have that role reversal.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be a fireman if I couldn't drive a truck.
It's a lot of responsibility. I drove for years and it makes me it's a lot of responsibility. It can make you really nervous.
Maybe you need a fire department academy.
That's right. Well, we do a community academy. Eric, are you familiar with our community academy?
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, and I apologize, I'm probably not going to hit the speaking points as nice as Cassandra would like me to, but we've been doing a community academy for quite some time. I want to say 6 or 7 years, maybe more, and same concept, we bring in people from the community and they go through several days of typical fire department academy scenarios, and then they come and ride with the crews at the station as close to an actual member of the crew as one could be. And they get the gear, and they go on the calls, and they eat meals together, and the crews are very hospitable, but we treat them just like we would with anybody else and stuff, so we make sure to throw a little ribbing in there too, and make them feel welcome. And so we do that community academy, and we can always get some, there may even be a waiting list at this point, but we can always get somebody linked up to that if they'd like.
I got to jump in and take the last question.
Okay.
Walker, one of the concerns, because we really rely on you for life and death situations, that's your job. This area is about to undergo a massive transformation with the expansion of South Hillsborough, large urbanization, and one of the things that has been bugging this organization has been stability. And can you tell me what sort of guidance TBF&R and the local governments are talking about your particular station? My concern is this, is that you work very hard to have a cohesive, organized unit, a station. It takes a lot of work, and if that is going to be fractionalized, dislocated, usurped, annexed, what sort of certainties or guarantees have you been getting from TBF&R or from the city of Hillsborough regarding the certainty of your station? Is it getting wiped off the map, or what do you know at this point in time?
Okay. Does anybody not understand the question? Would be the easier way to ask it, because you're digging into some pretty big historical and geographical issues. Does everybody understand where Erica, the question is coming from? So it has to do, to get down to brass tacks, basically about the urban growth boundary, about Senate Bill 150.
100, 121, 122.
By several Senate bills about unincorporated areas like Aloha, and who's going to provide services for them.
Yep.
And there is a definite, very, very slow evolution and discussion about where these jurisdictional boundaries are going to fall, and whether it falls between school district lines, or and with this large property across the street is the St. Mary's property is slated to become City of Hillsborough over a period of time. What I do know is that the fire district is actively involved with all the parties to discuss the future. I feel that there is nothing moving very fast. I feel like many things are moving very, very slow, especially at our location. We have a very, very good working relationship with Hillsborough, the fire department. And best I can understand right now is that all plans are pointing to as much of a team approach as possible. I don't know of any immediate plans to change anything, and there will always be a what we call closest assignment response, regardless of whether City of Hillsborough is across the street from us. We always have whoever the closest unit is goes, despite those jurisdictional borders. So I can't talk about factual stuff because I just don't know, but I can tell you my feeling is there's nothing that's going to make any huge change for us at the station level. My job, like I've always said here, is it's just to be an advocate for you all as much as I can, and I don't see any immediate changes to that. However, with that being said, beyond the fire department, as just a person who lives in a neighborhood, I fully appreciate all the concerns you all have about growth and traffic and everything that comes with it. So I hear you and I feel you. I feel the issues. So I hope we can work as best I can, like I said, be advocate for you all.
Fantastic.
So,
well, that being said, I got to keep the...
Yes, we got to keep things moving. This
One
gentleman,
quick question.
and I know you
Bob.
too, right?
Yeah, Bob Fetter.
Yeah, Bob.
I don't know if it was earlier this year or last year, you were talking about the Rio's Ribs.
Yes.
About maybe doing a burn there.
Okay.
Has anything ever happened about that?
I will say that I worked very, very hard to build a relationship to try and make some training opportunities in those buildings. And I met with the owners, and there's sort of the subjective pieces and the objective pieces. And the objective pieces were, I made sure that at a minimum we did a walkthrough of every building with our fire prevention officers. I made sure that the fence was secure every building was vacant and secured. And we went back to follow up on that on a regular basis so that there could be no transient establishment, and ultimately to make sure it was safe and secure and that the owners were meeting those obligations, which they legally are required to do. And I did receive, you know, a positive response from the owners with that, and we did follow up on it. There was not a tremendous amount of energy, I feel, from them in regards to utilizing the property for training, which is well within their right. And I tried really hard because it would provide really good opportunities for us, and as well as possibly lead towards more expedited demolition, which I know all communities want. Last I was told, this is a story, and so I'm not sure if it's fact, that the property was sold and slated for demolition in the near future. That's just that, or slated for demolition. There is a permit on file for demolition at the county.
Now, I heard that a couple months ago.
So, take it with a grain of salt.
So you're gonna try to contact the new owners, which are on record since they bought it?
Yeah.
Are you trying to?
I can find out and stay on it. Like I say, anything I can do to kind of keep on those sort of things.
Because the new owners may welcome you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and we like that too. It's great.
Well, it's work for them.
Yeah.
Folks, how about some applause
Okay.
for our Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you. I've got those books still, but I think
No worries.
I'm gonna transition them onto another resource.
You guys can do me a huge favor,
Yes, sir.
sign in.
Okay.
And
Thank you. Oh, this one?
Oh, no worries, we'll get it figured out. Thank you so much.
It's great to see you.
I'd like to set the table for our next speaker. Tara Sullivan is with 1,000 Friends of Oregon, and she has, and hang out and have beer.
Okay. I've got 2 Proby firefighters back there that I'm gonna go back and we're running through some more scenarios.
I want to have a 6-pack of real beer, drive the fire truck.
Yeah.
Big guys. Yeah, I don't.
You can be up there with the dogs there, Eric.
Yeah. Anyway, Tara has really been a wonderful person to work with 1,000 Friends of Oregon. They do a lot of advocacy work for stuff that we're involved with, which is how we preserve natural resources, land use, and that arguably is one of the core functions. Speaking to Andrea, one of the core functions of a CPO is to receive land use applications. And what Tara and 1,000 Friends do is help coordinate high-level policy, laws, lobby folks, file lawsuits, and so their work is something that I track, and so having Tara out here is really a treat. So with that being said, I'd like you to all put your hands together and welcome Tara Sullivan.
Thank you everyone so much for having me back to CPO 6. This is great. As Eric said, I'm Tara Sullivan. I'm with 1,000 Friends of Oregon. I'm the outreach director, and I'm mostly here to listen tonight because I was here a little more than a year ago, talked a little bit about what 1,000 Friends does as an organization. I recognize most of the faces here, so I'll give a little bit of a review of what we do as an organization, what some of our changing priorities are at the state level and at the regional level, and then I'm here to hear about what's happening in the region and in your area of Washington County, how things are going with the LOA rebuild planning effort, and how we can be better advocates at the regional level. So I have a few handouts here, but I know from experience if I give them to you right now, you're just going to look at those and probably not listen to what I'm saying. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our goals and priorities, how you can get involved in what's happening at Metro around the Climate Smart Communities program, how that relates to things that are happening here, and then hearing about what some of the issues are here, and then focusing on other upcoming opportunities. So how many people are familiar with 1,000 Friends? Yes, okay, great. So we are a statewide land use transportation advocacy organization. We have 4 offices around the state. We have 6 of us in Portland, and then there are 3 other staff around the state, 1 person in Eugene, 1 person in Bend, and 1 in Grants Pass, so, and actually 2 in Bend. So we're pretty small, there's only 10 of us, though we are often seen as bigger than our britches for that, because we do have many members around the state, in every county actually, and we are a membership organization. And so we, right now, some of our main priorities, I want to talk a little bit about the legislative session, since I know there were a lot of questions on that last time I was here in, I think it was June or May 2011, as that session was just wrapping up. So our legislative priorities moving forward, 2011 and 2012, the short session in 2012 were tough sessions, with it being tied with 30 Democrats, 30 Republicans, and Senate having 16 Democrats and 14 Republicans. There had to be a lot of compromises for any bills to move forward. And so it definitely, those were not sessions to be trying to move forward advanced policy priorities, forward-thinking type stuff. And so moving into 2013, we'll see what the next election brings, and we'll be doing a lot of education around the state. But our main priorities will continue to be on the rural side of things, because we do work both inside urban areas promoting livable communities, and outside urban areas ensuring that that land can stay as farmland, as natural resources. And so when I spoke with you last year, I mentioned a little bit about a new campaign we were running called The New Face of Farming, and we went around the state and talked to hundreds of Oregonians who are engaged in the agriculture industry in some way, as farmers, as advocates, people who work in the agriculture economy and ag production, and asked them questions about what was and wasn't working for them about land use planning. And one thing we heard from a lot of the farmers is that they wanted to see the opportunity for long-term protection of farmland, knowing that their land wasn't just about to be developed someday, but some sort of long-term working lands protection. And so we in the Portland metro area at least have rural reserves that provide some sort of protection in the long term, but the rest of the state, there really isn't that sort of certainty. And so we've been working with a variety of groups to look into the issue of long-term working lands protection. So that's one of our priorities, seeing if we can move something forward in the legislative session. And then we will always, every single session since 1973, there will always be chipping away at what can happen or what can't happen on farmland. There's a list of over 50 uses of all the different things that can happen on exclusive farm use land that are not farming. And so we'll be continuing to make the case about why we need to protect those agricultural zones and reduce the number of conflicts that happen when those are right on the edge. And so that'll be one issue that will definitely come up. And then on the issue of public involvement, one other piece of what we work on is getting more people involved in the planning process and making sure that it's accessible for everyone to participate through CPOs, through a variety of mechanisms to make sure that people can connect with the planning process and that they know how to do that. And so one type of legislation we often see is limits to standing increases in appeal fees, so people can't prevent illegal land use decisions from happening because the cost of appeals just becomes too high for the average person. And so we'll be continuing to make the case that our land use planning program is first and foremost about citizen participation, and so that we need to prevent limits to standing, limits to appeal or increasing appeal fees. So that's just some things that we see coming. And then on the urban side of things, we will continue to be working with a variety of stakeholders and business groups to make sure that there's local tools in place for communities to preserve employment land inside existing urban areas. One thing that we see around the state is communities saying, oh, we don't have enough land for employment that's large enough to attract new companies. And so continuing to figure out ways that local governments can put tools in place to make sure that they don't always have to expand the urban growth boundary for more employment land. And so that is definitely still in the works, but similar to some of the work we did in 2011 advancing Senate Bill 766. And you can read about that on our website. But those are the main things that we see coming at the state level. At the regional level, I mostly, like I said, wanted to hear from you a little bit about what some of the major land use and transportation issues that have been coming up in this area have been. I've been following the Lower Reedville Ability Study and Planning process, and it sounds like a lot of the interim ideas that are coming up are things that are very related to the land use and transportation strategies in Metro's Climate Smart Communities process. And so I know that Metro comes regularly and tells you about that. So most people have heard a little bit about what that process is in general. Okay, I will pass around this in case you're interested. Essentially, Metro is working with the counties and stakeholders to reduce pollution from transportation and looking at a variety of land use and transportation strategies to do that. And so we have been active as a stakeholder on their advisory committees, and we just want to make sure that other members of those advisory committees are hearing from residents in their areas about what they value, because this process will really set the tone for what types of land use and transportation investments will be made up to 2035. And so I think those are the main things I wanted to cover with that. And so after looking, and tell me if I'm off base on this, Mike, but looking through some of the materials for the take-home meetings for the Lower Reedville study, it seems like there's at least some interim things that are being heard so far related to what the community investments are. And these are some of the things that it seemed like were listed for the Lower Reedville study. Is this on base? Are these the type of investments that you want to be seeing for your community? And how can we better represent that as we're sitting around regional tables at the...
Well, you could add the West Side bypass.
The West Side bypass as one of the takeaways for...
To increase traffic flow.
to increase traffic flow.
What I'd like to see is a lot of the schools in the area, they don't have safe sidewalks, bike routes. A lot of the kids nowadays can't ride their bikes to school because there's no safe way to get to school.
So access to schools.
Or when they're constructing schools or looking at the roads, having some kind of safe way. I would never have, even if my kid did go to Beaver Acres on 170, but I would never have them walk or ride because it's not a safe road.
Tara, one theme that you could use to tie all those together that the Lower Reedville study will be moving forward into is governance. Because a lot of those tasks would be assigned to a government, a city. The county has stepped up in order to provide what they can by charter or want to beyond charter, but this is going to kind of weave the fabric of these complaints together into a thesis and kind of a direction that is going to help match money with effort. So certainly that's a good representation of discussion points. And I really also want to echo Rex's point is that this community was promised and densified with the expectation we were going to have a west side multimodal corridor, freeway. And that's become politically, it likely will not happen. On the other hand, what is going to be an easy tool for planners to do is just upzone without providing transit. Concurrent with the Lower Reedville studies and the TV highway study, and that's basically come to a close. The expectation has been set early on, and then in the conclusion of that is we get no additional freeway access. And as South Hillsborough urbanizes, we are taking a facility that the Washington County Sheriff's Office has said is currently operating at 140% of design capacity, and we have no pressure relief valve for this additional traffic. And one of my constituents here, Martin Graham, who works for Multnomah County, said just laughingly, and the solution is to put them all on the 57. That ain't gonna work, and that high density bus capacity is not an effective solution for adding 12 to 36,000 new bodies just in this side. So anyway, I didn't want to sidetrack you, but those are just some of the bigger picture concepts that I want you to have as a takeaway here.
Yeah, and that's very much what we're interested in hearing as we're advocating generally for some of these different takeaways at the regional level, hearing about whether or not those are important in each individual community is things you want to be advocating for. Steve?
Just to tie into what Eric said, I'm Steve Lawrence. It seems like Washington, the Thousand Friends, they were instrumental in taking the freeway away, by the way, and could make maybe a couple more thousand friends if they would help get it back. Honestly, I mean, we did a little survey here, and it was almost unanimous that we need a limited access facility because what we've become is a crossroads community. There's a whole lot of traffic running through our community that isn't generated here. Contrary to what the TV highway study indicated, that all the TV highway traffic, but the majority of TV highway traffic and north-south traffic in the Lower Reedville was local. Well, they did that by having some pretty fancy definitions of what local traffic was. So like if you started in Tualatin but entered the corridor anywhere along the north or south of it, and then exited it anywhere else, that meant that you were a local trip. So I mean, they just had very bad criteria, and so they came up with a very bad conclusion. When we that live here know that's not the case. And I think Eric was saying that with South Hillsborough coming in, it's not only going to exacerbate it, but I think even a more telling lapse in Thousand Friends' planning policy comes more to the forefront, which is you're not taking advantage of the fact that these new urban areas coming in and understanding what an opportunity it is to have a blank canvas to work with, and that the opportunity is there in not only in the South Hillsborough instance, but also there's the South Cooper Mountain and the West Bull Mountain are three almost contiguous urban growth boundary expansions that are occurring with just Cooper Mountain in between them. So it's a really rare opportunity, one that the region probably won't see again for hundreds of years maybe. And Thousand Friends could show their progressive nature by understanding that it's time to reevaluate a former policy that if you reevaluated it, you would find out it isn't working. I mean, the contention at the time was we're going to provide alternative ways for those trips to occur. Well, we didn't provide them. They're still here. All of those same trips that were scheduled to be on the freeway are now on my street and everybody else's street in here. They're finding local streets to use. And it'll be real interesting how Metro can make that seem like it's climate friendly.
And adding significant amounts of density on the edge is not going to make it easier to really reduce emissions and get people out of not just having to drive for every trip, because it's very difficult for TriMet to expand service regardless of any promises they can make. It's really difficult to provide service for a new area, not to mention the existing areas they have, which they're having trouble with.
TriMet can't go from Hillsborough a straight shot to Sherwood.
Yeah, let's face it. What you need is a limited access corridor to put another train in someday.